Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Heracles Porsche here, also known as Gildenlock on Xbox Live. In today's video, I'm very excited. Today, we are going to be watching replays from my Alliance 420 Club, one of the top alliances on the PlayStation Network. And we're just going to be trying to talk strategy, do kind of some sports commentary style, get really excited. And here we are. We're opening with the Minesweeper on the bottom from Big Blunt. And we have oh my goodness. Hey, his heavy tank getting taken out there. Big stack there on the top. We have Officer, Machine Gunner. Man, he got those units down fast. It's pretty ridiculous, really. Already a top base taken out there. And now we've got some tank destroyer on tank destroyer action. Very low health tank destroyer is going to be moving along that top field. And plenty of time to counter that. Let's see what Big Blunt's going to roll out. Surprising choice here on the Minesweeper. Don't really consider that a counter. But again, that tank was not a huge health, so guess that worked out. All right, we have again a ridiculously quick stack there on two important anti-mine units, and I have to say, Big Blunt's unit selection is pretty much ideal anti-armor, really. Now we have some pressure finally be putting on Big Blunt. Hasn't dealt with that sniper yet. Wonder how many. All right, finally in there with the flamethrower. Very rare to see that flame. I can't remember the last time I saw a flamethrower last more than 2 seconds without, just dying and doing that AOE damage. Here we have a little bit. Is that? Yes, it's incredible that bazooka unit actually makes it over. And it looks like Big Blunt's going to secure a 2-star victory pretty handily. But what's this? We've got some pressure on the top side. And a Jeep on the bottom. Is he going to be able to stop all that? He loses a base. Big Blunt loses a base. Still in pressure. Some intense pressure is going to be on his boat soon. But it's like boat damage is ending on twice. And that is the end of the round. Big Blunt comes out with a base ahead. A 2-star victory, and there we go. That's our first one. All right, we're going to be doing 2 more from Big Blunt. I hope you guys don't mind, because I wanted to just this is my first test of this, theory of gameplay. Up next, Big Blunt is going to be facing up against a decently higher opponent. He looks like this will have been after he's acquired a little bit of rank himself, so this will have been sometime later. Looks like Big Blunt's still running that same setup. I still see the same unit selection. He's facing off against an opponent with certainly less tank focus. So let's see how he fares against that. Interesting matchup. Obviously, Big Blunt has got 1 level up on his opponent, but it's a higher ranked opponent, so what you're going to see there, of course, is a lower level player who just really knows how to use his units well. Is when you see those lower level guys with the high rankings.
No problem.
That was a quick deploy on those Gurkhas. Looks like those units are going to get picked off there from Big Wise. But Big Wise is the opening damage player. He is starting with a leg up. Interesting placement on that machine gun nest. Here we go with the Minesweeper. A little surprisingly far back cast, maybe trying to give himself time to get a variety of units out. There we go. The flamethrower taken out, Minesweeper proceeding ahead, but his units are going to come in behind and sweep out all those units who are focused on taking out that Minesweeper, but that flamethrower clears them out. And of course that base is going to be taken out now with the direct damage. But an interesting counter stack coming here from Big Wise up on the top. Officer and defensive use of that Minesweeper. I actually have to say I'm a little surprised by how fast. And things have gotten evenly matched now. They're base for base now, even health. But Big Blunt is rolling in some units from the top. Setting up quite a good stack here. And looks like Big Wise is going to be under some very intense pressure here. Probably I would say some unwise placement on that legendary unit. Just too much crossfire there. And his boat is almost gone. Most of the units seem to be targeting the base. That's almost about to get wiped out. I think it's all over for Big Wise. Although he might pull back from this. And finally finishing off with the rockets. And that's another victory for Big Blunt. Of course, you can expect most of these shares are going to be victories from the 420 Club. Because, you know, these are all voluntary shares from those players. And people are obviously going to be more liable to share their victories. Okay. We have, I guess, 2 more from Big Blunt before moving on to a new player. Oh, what is... Okay, no, Big Blunt's on the right this side. I was a little confused for a second there. Big Blunt with higher level and higher ranking than his opponent in this round, but surprise paratrooper. Definitely not ideal when you put that paratrooper into a stack of the base and the tank. So can't say I'm very impressed with Mr. Number Faces Man, is what we'll call him for now. I'm not really sure how this stack is going to play out. Big Blunt's forces devastated by a rank 7 mortar unit, and now we've got pressure coming from the top, but plenty of time to calculate some counter. And unsurprisingly, it's a quick solution with the rockets. The Gurkha's pushing in, and some substantial damage. Officer plus Gurkhas means that's going to be a base that is more or less decimated. He'll be left with a little bit of health. And we have Mr. Face Number Man feeling a little pressure as his units hit the top. As he filled up on resource points. Finally getting in a nice hit there with those paratroopers. I actually didn't expect that paratrooper hit quite so hard. This unit will be taken out long before it can reach the boat. And we have Big Blunt well on the advantage with half a base. Let's see how much the quick obvious counter, my preferred counter to the sniper, I have to say. And those distracted infantry will get taken out by that flamethrower. We have another quick stack here. Mr. Number Face Man is not going to be left with a whole lot of boat health after this. And a quick counter from Big Blunt with the Gurkhas. My guess is a poorly placed rocket shot from Number Face Man actually leaves those Gurkhas with a surprising amount of health after facing off against those infantry. Another paratrooper hit. And it looks like we're going to be bases tied. Bases tied with Number Face Man's boat health mostly desiccated, and things are turning around quickly. Some very intense pressure up here on the top. It's probably going to spell doom for Numberface Man. And that is going to be all she wrote as a quick closer on the sudden death. Okay. Moving right along. Alright, our final in a series of 4 from Big Blunt, 2 level 8 players facing off. This time, fairly evenly matched, only a slight lead on the ranking from Andreas Poak. And as we again await for the the level 10. Looks like the sniper will get off a few hits before being rolled over by this minesweeper. I would say a couple hits, well worth it cast. And a substantial amount of damage. And defensive cast by off the line infantry, completely decimated, but a unmolested minesweeper taking down that base pretty hard. Quick cast by the Gurkhas. And let's see these Gurkhas there. I'm expecting some ravaging of this base. Interesting combination of Gurkhas and bazooka completely and officer completely decimating this base. Let's see what will be the response here. An appropriate armor-piercing response from Big Blunt, but that Jeep obviously landing some substantial damage. Bit of a late cast there. And we have Andrews Poke, very interesting turnaround tactic. For, trying to make a slow comeback. With the comms tower. I personally don't favor those tactics. Late game comms tower don't tend to result in a lot of wins. But we'll see if it pays off. And that's absolutely going to be a base taken out. I don't care what you place down. That combination of distraction. So this is when the waiting for enemy cast really doesn't work out. An impressive stack here from Andreas Poak, trying to snatch away the. Could this be? An excellent cast there of those rockets. And defensive deployment, but that is the end of Andrea Poak's base. Just a little late, and that'll be the end of it. And that is first round base up, of course. Big Blunt, the winner, no surprise there. Now it's finally time to move on to a thanks, Dave-O. Really appreciate you dropping by in this little experiment I am running with trying to do an announcement style video. Moving down to some. Now we are of new player, new sets of new builds, new feel. Both players resource capped. And defensive minesweeper. We've been seeing a surprising lot. Alright, we have above and below pressure, a quick thinking by Dragon Calves puts that infantry in its place with the barbed wire. That is gonna put Dragon Calves up in terms of point efficiency. And of course, this Jeep is going to be in a whole world of trouble. But those commandos are, of course, going up against barbed wire. And there we go. That making the deployment make sense, as that barbed wire would have... Anyway. Okay, I lost a little bit of track there. And another quick cast of the barbed wire. How many times is Dagenkalf going to foil those expensive infantry units with those cheap barbed wire casts? And are we going to get a quick counter here on this Jeep? Legion Assassin taking a surprisingly large amount of time on that counter. I suppose going for the efficiency of that turret. Let's see, people letting their points fill up. Probably each player preparing a giant stack. And going for distance damage. Interesting cast of the sniper to take out that. Obviously, that sniper left far too vulnerable there on the border. And border positions are generally far too vulnerable. We're at a very evenly matched. This is a great, intense match. This is exactly the kind of match I'm looking for. A defensive cast with the Minesweeper. Of course, that won't clear out a Jeep all on its own as it rolled to the side. But a surprising amount of damage stacking up on this anti-tank turret. Defensive cast of that infantry. And pressure from above and below. And going with the standard counter, the Jeep completely turning and facing the turret as it was cast just in time. Reasonable amount of health left in that top gun turret. And we're going into sudden death now. Things feel like they're sweeping into Legion Assassin, and it looks like we're going to have no counter. We have no defenses, no fortifications to block that heavy bomber run, saving that for the surprise. And he'd better have something for this infantry. He does. And that game is finished off with some more direct damage in the shape of the rockets. And a friendly 420 Club versus 420 Club game is complete. That is what I like to see, that intense, nail-biting action. And now it is time to go to our infamous leader. Guitar Chronic versus Numbers. And we have a great opening simultaneous deployment here from and that sniper definitely delivered its money worth in devastating, well, leaving a good blow at least on that top base. Sniper unit, of course, only taking 2 resource points, so very efficient use of those resource points there. And Minesweeper pretty much guaranteed to take out these units. And it's an interesting mix of the medium tank and the Minesweeper. Doesn't look like it's going to... Didn't think it would fare too well against this unit mix. But that medium tank had already fixated on that base. Again, delivering another substantial blow on Guitar Chronic's upper base. And that anti-tank mine was deployed very poorly. He's not going to get much use out of that anti-tank mine, but that sniper was tucked in nice and tight, unfortunately advancing to a much more vulnerable position here. Definitely going to be rolled over, and I'm pretty sure so is this base. There's no way that base isn't going to take some substantial hits, but all of those units, of course, now focus on the base. Now, where that bazooka unit actually fell to the mortarmen, so keep that use the handiness of having a mortarman that can continue to damage units it's not directly targeting. So keep that in mind for the mortarmen, folks. A very handy unit to clear out enemy infantry even after it's distracted. And here's a big stack. I think that Jeep's going to be just going to get in a nice little hit there. Great cast from of that rockets unit. Double sniper, you don't see that very often, but it's going to be in the path of far too much damage, so not a whole lot of use here. A kind of surprising mix of the Jeep and the flamethrower units, but it all makes sense now. Definitely a wasteful bazooka cast from... And, oh my god, an intense stack here of units. There's no quick solution to a stack like that, folks. Those tanks and mortarmen mixed in, but certainly would have lost that boat if that had gone on. But there we go. That's Guitar Chronic claiming a victory over a higher ranked opponent. Let's move on to another share by Guitar Chronic. Guitar Chronic gain 1 level up. A quick cast of this and this is a surprising move, folks. I don't see those motorcycle units useful too often, but again, that is why I'm personally not a fan of the motorcycle units. Even when I was starting to think it might have had some use, far too squishy and does far too little damage. So I would have to rate that as a relatively poor unit choice to even begin with, let alone deployment choice. Commandos coming out from, and of course, Guitar Chronic's Machine Nest does catch those, but Guitar Chronic's best answer at the moment was that light tank, and he's got infantry ready to deal with that. And very interesting. And the tank destroying turret is out of the way before that light tank can get in there. The light tank doing decent damage on that base. Gel has interesting amount of time to counter there, deciding to go for some overall efficiency in the form of that tank destroyer. Unfortunately, that light tank almost certainly going to be devastated. And let's see how Guitar Chronic responds to the pressure of this medium tank. That machine gun nest holding up surprisingly well against that medium tank, but now it's the base's turn. Guitar Chronic faring surprisingly well, given I'm not seeing a whole lot of specialized anti-tank units from his end. And Guitar Chronic, 3 bases, going to be applying constant pressure to the enemy, and Gel is going to have to definitely watch his bottom base, although I have a feeling that he's going to be whittled down on the top base is actually going to end up being the biggest threat. But I was wrong, a giant stack, unstoppable stack. Even with that, and we're going to get to the end of the first round with Guitar Chronic claiming that 1 base up victory. Alright, and moving on to our last match of the day. We will be looking at another big blunt match. Moving to the higher rankings, this should be a good one, folks. We have Big Blunt facing off against the opponent with a full 158 ranking above Big Blunt. Of course, we do know how this is going to end, as this is Big Blunt's share, but let's keep the action up. He is facing off against the opponent with that legendary unit, so it could be interesting. Is those anti-armor machine gunner units, and a nice little squishy squish of that minesweeper coming in. A big stack. Let's see how this is responded to.
Tank under construction.
Well, they're stacking some very good damage with that tank destroyer, making the unit well worth a cast. I'm actually a little surprised by the slowness of Big Blunt's counter on that one. Defensive cast on the minesweeper a little earlier than was perhaps ideal, but just the same, turned quite well into an offensive stack here. Although just had a little bit too much time from Weldell to counter that. And a highly efficient use from Weldell of the tank destroyer. Although facing off against a stack is still a stack. So let's see how Weldell decides to do his last minute counter. He goes for infantry. Losing half of his infantry to stop that. Big Blunt's tank rollout from that tank factory finally complete. Big Blunt is really going to have to watch that top base. Weldell's definitely got a big leg up here. I'm really interested to see how Big Blunt turns this around. How is he going to answer the infantry stack? And another defensive cast of the minesweeper. But that defensive cast cost him quarter health on the offense. But he's still going for a stack. And the minesweeper getting in a little bit of damage there, but still just a little too much time from Weldell to set up his own counter. And we're going for a light tank on the top. And a nice, interesting little flanking maneuver from Big Blunt on the border. But well, I'm just shocked at how quickly that was cleared out. And I don't believe this legendary unit's going to last long. Although the decent stack to retaliate, but pressure from that light tank is still going to come. And it's been turned into a big stack. An interesting offensive cast from Big Blunt that'll actually clear some units away, but there's just a few too many units off to the side. And almost certainly this is going to be finished off by a quick rocket from Big Blunt. I'm kind of curious, what was he waiting for? But there is the end of the match. And there you have it, folks. Some gameplay shares from 420 Club. And I will be continuing to share 420 Club's replays as they offer them up. Replays only last a specific amount of time, so I will have to be trying to figure out the right interval to share those with you all. And keep in mind, I would love to see lots of gameplay from outside of my alliance and comment on all different kinds of Battle Alliance Commanders gameplay. I would love to do it for, you know, any ranking. I will, you know, create some fanfare around anything I can. So if you have a video that you would like me to add commentary to, you could upload it to YouTube and send me the link, or we could work out something else. But that was my experiment in trying to do some commentating of other people's replays. Hopefully you guys will stick with it. I'm sure as I practice this art, it can only get better with time. And remember, I always enjoy all of your feedback. And until next time, everybody, I shall see you Starside.